Mayor Lambert, Council, appreciate the chance to come in and chat with everybody tonight a little bit about street maintenance. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but it's still wintertime out there. Yeah. You know, in 15 years working public works, which makes me feel really old to say I've been 15 years working public works, this is the hardest winter on pavement surfaces I've seen. You know, we are always teaching our staff that moisture is the enemy of any road. Water is what really compromises a road, and anytime you live where there's freeze-thaw cycles, we'll go down and we'll go to some of the conferences and talk to your Phoenixes and your Houstons where they never freeze, and we just are really envious of the way that they're able to do pavement that we're not. North of the 45th up here, we get freeze-thaw, and this winter's been a tough one. And so we wanted to talk a little bit tonight and been asked to just come and chat a little bit about the impact that it's had on our street system. And it's definitely had an impact on the street system, as we've been here multiple times talking to you all about the efforts that we're making to do our road maintenance. Winters like this aren't terribly helpful. It's nothing that we don't really anticipate. We're going to have tough winters, and this was a tough winter, and so we want to just update the council on where we're at and talk about where we're heading from here as far as road maintenance goes. I've got Steve Schulte, our street superintendent, with me today. Steve's one of those guys that really makes the city run. He's a rubber meets the road guy. One of the reasons that we all get to sleep easy is because a lot of times Steve doesn't. He's the guy getting the 2 a.m. phone call frequently and making sure that we have people out and that people are able to get to work, the children are able to get to school. Puts in a lot of work to try and make everything run appropriately between. And this time of year, you know, it's a shuffling act. It's between plowing to filling potholes, back to plowing, and he really does a good job with that. So I'm going to have Steve run you guys through a little bit of what he's seen and what the challenges have been, and then we'll talk about where we're going from there.
Hi, Steve. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Hey, this is one of the guys who can run one of the snow plows, too, or graders or any of that stuff. So I'm truly thankful about that, because I know this guy's out there in the middle of the night through the course of this winter. With that, Steve, I'll let you go on.
It has been, as Tyler said, a very difficult winter. It started fairly early in December there, I think around the 6th of December, and it seems like we just haven't had a break. You know, you get maybe a day or two here, but then it tries to flood, and then, you know, there's just no breaks. The winter, it threw a curveball at us this year with colder snow than we usually see. It stacked up, and we were still trying to plow snow that fell in December and the end of January. It just never melted and went away like we're used to. It took the highly trained crew that we've got, that with the first couple of storms, we trained them up. We got new guys in from the water department, from collections, from the other public works departments that come and help out, and that's what assists the street department and makes this successful snow removal operation work. It's hard to quantify how many hours we put into plowing snow. I guess we can pull it up, but how much time each one of those guys thinks about plowing snow at home. They're all passionate about plowing snow and keeping these roads safe. It's great to have a crew of guys like that keep the roads open and drivable. One of the things that helps us do that is the equipment. We've got great equipment for plowing snow. With old, ratty, rusty equipment, it wouldn't be possible to do what we do, and part of that's thankful to what we've got, at the shop. So this long winter has broken at times and produced the potholes. Here's a couple of shots of 3rd Street. The deterioration of 3rd Street has escalated much quicker than we would have planned, much faster than we thought it was going to fall apart. It was on the radar, but it very quickly moved up that list. Here's a couple of shots of the potholes that are just never ending. You turn your back and there's another one. And that freeze-thaw cycle that Tyler talked about, the water gets into those cracks, gets underneath the street. The freezing cold December and January we had, and the potholes were down there forming. When it finally warmed up a little bit, here they came. Now the crew's out out filling potholes every day, sometimes 2 crews a day. And we've got, so far, and this is just this winter, 453 man-hours of filling potholes. That's a pretty large number. Only one that trumps it is the snow plowing number. I mean, that's pretty much all we've done is plow snow, fill potholes. Then it snows again, plow snow, fill potholes. That's 28,000 pounds of cold mix. That's the material, the asphalt we use during the winter to fill potholes. 28,000 pounds hand-shoveled material. That's a lot of shovels. If you think about each pothole maybe being 50 pounds apiece, maybe less, that's a lot of potholes. These guys have been chasing them all over town, but it's way more than we're used to this year. I guess so. As far as moving forward, it's not the end of the winter. It's supposed to snow tomorrow. That's going to form some more potholes. And we're still seeing roads thaw out. They're not done, warming up, and the potholes aren't done forming. We're still going to see more of them popping up. And Tyler will take on the next section here. We need to keep doing what we can to maintain these streets, preserve what we've got on the surface, keep the water out from underneath them, and hopefully there's not so many potholes next year.
Steve, you and your crew's done a fabulous job this winter. For the winter that we've been in, you talked about rusty old equipment and stuff, and our town did very, very well. And there was towns in this state that really suffered. They didn't have the equipment, they didn't have the man-hours to do it, and quite frankly, they didn't have the wherewithal to make it happen. Some of those cities pretty close to us that struggled, and so I feel pretty good that our guys did a great job this entire winter, and so my appreciation to you and your whole crew. So, and that comes from all of us up here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So, one of the things I really appreciate about Steve and his crews, they're never complacent. They really want to continually improve. We've already had meetings. I was going to say spring, but we're not spring yet. That was wishful thinking. But we've already had meetings in the last couple of weeks with Smart Transit, with the school district. We've sat down with the Parks Department, just trying to coordinate and talk to these people about what challenges they've had and how we can improve. Because anytime we have a tough winter, anytime we have anything that tests our systems and stresses the systems, it's a really good time for us to analyze and look at what we can do better. And so I really appreciate that commitment. They never get complacent. It's never just good enough. It's always, okay, how do we make this better and how do we keep this system evolving, keeping educated, staying on top of the latest technologies. And a lot of that credit goes, as Steve mentioned, we can't do the job without the right tools. And those tools include us getting the right people, getting those people educated appropriately, and having the right equipment to put them out in the field with. And that involves our Public Works Administration, Les, Gary, help from the Finance Department. It takes the whole team to make that happen, and we really appreciate the council as we go through those processes being supportive as we've tried to modernize and make sure we have the tools to provide the services that our community desires. So we really appreciate that. So, moving forward, as Steve mentioned, our surface treatments, the efforts that we've gone through over the last several years of modernizing and treating our good roads and trying to keep our good roads good, that is what really helps us in these situations. It's something that, as we know, we've been underfunded. Funding is very difficult for streets with the way that the structure is set up in the state of Idaho and the options that we have for funding the streets. We made great strides in this last year's budget. We had the biggest PMP budget that we've had, and we plan to utilize that well this year. One of the things we have coming up is our slurry seal project. We look forward to that bid opening tomorrow, actually, on the slurry seal. It's really interesting. The city of Moscow was the first entity to perform a slurry seal, in our entire region, and that was 6 years ago now. That first year that we did it, we had 2 companies that bid on our slurry seal. One of the bids was quite a bit higher than the other bid. It was kind of a, well, if they'll pay me this, I guess we'll come out there type of a thing. Since then, we have several entities that have cooperated with us on the slurry seal. We work very closely with the City of Lewiston. We put out a bid simultaneously with the City of Lewiston this year so that we can, through our street maintenance co-op, we work with several entities to try and coordinate these efforts so we get those economies of scale that are hard to get individually with smaller cities that are geographically isolated. So we have 4 bid holders. for that package, and we really look forward to seeing the bids come in and anticipate good bids as they've come in. And there's been several slurry seals since we did that initial one, and we've had success in the region. And so we've got a decent-sized slurry seal package. We have some money. We have about $700,000 in the PMP this year in the pavement management program. We've got about what we anticipate to be $300,000 to $350,000 in slurry seal for the project, depending on where bids come in. The remainder of the funds, we had looked at potentially doing maybe another AR chip seal or a different surface treatment. With the winter that we've had, we're probably going to have to look at some alternatives for that funding. You know, as y'all know, 3rd Street out here, as Steve mentioned, has been highly problematic. We have streets like Almond Street. Interestingly enough, Joseph Street was an area that first couple hundred yards as you turn off Joseph Street on Mountain View across the park there. It's a really bad segment of road. It's one of our lowest rated roads in our condition index. But it didn't see the degradation that we saw on certain spots like the 6th Street Hill or 3rd Street. And, you know, we've been brainstorming trying to think of why that didn't quite blow up with the moisture this year. And I suspect it has something to do with the extensive underdrains that were laid in conjunction with the park that was built there, the ball fields. That picks up quite a bit of water that otherwise is migrating to the south there and across that road. And so that may be one of the causes that we haven't seen the rapid degradation there. But the remainder of those funds, we're probably going to be approaching the council as we try and put together some plans to take care of some of these really bad stretches. And so it's unfortunate. We hate to have to take that money that we really want to spend on surface treatments and spend it on more extensive repairs, but that appears that like it's going to be the case after a tough winter like we've had. The asphalt rubber chip that we put down last year, we appreciate it. We got a call from the contractor that installed the asphalt rubber chip a couple months ago, and they'd indicated that they'd had an issue with, they had two main pieces of equipment that installed our asphalt rubber chip. One of the pieces of equipment that they had installed, upon inspection, they found that there was an item that the calibration, that it had malfunctioned, and so the calibration was not what they thought it was, and it wasn't applying the level of emulsion that they thought. And so, and they contacted us before we'd had an opportunity to see it without snow and being able to actually adequately sweep the street, and said, hey, there may be problems with some of the application, and we'll come back out and we'll take a look at it and we'll see what we need to do to make it right. It looks like D Street is that street, and that was where that piece of equipment was used. If you go on it, you'll notice that there are some areas where we've had scrubbing of the rock that was applied. We actually have a meeting set up next week with 2 representatives from the contractor who applied it, and they've been very cooperative and understand our position that we expect warranty on any work that we've had provided, especially 1 year after. It was a tough winter. It's a tough winter on any surface treatment for sure, but the encouraging part is we've had areas elsewhere where we've put it, like 6th Street and East Street, where they actually had the appropriate installation at the appropriate levels of calibration, so we were getting the right emulsion rock mix, where it's held up very well. We've been actually very pleased, especially considering the winter. It was one heck of a test on these surfaces this winter. And so I guess with us we probably wouldn't have put out another asphalt rubber chip this year with this experience until we saw what the repairs were going to be and see how they hold up over a second winter. And so taking those funds and focusing maybe on some different projects to try and clean up a little bit after this winter may not be the worst thing. And so a little bit of a mixed bag on the asphalt rubber. We're very happy where it was applied correctly, and we will be updating the council again once we have met with the contractor and work with them toward a resolution on the other locations. And so that's what we're kind of looking forward to. And with that, I'll stand for any questions that the council might have about the plans for road work or the winter or anything else we've had.
One thing about that rubber chip seal that we had this past year, this is the winter to really test it out. There's no doubt about it, because it's not going to be any rougher than that. So
no.
I was actually pretty impressed with it, Tyler.
Yeah, you know, where you're right, Mayor, where it was applied correctly, we were, F Street and 6th Street, we were really impressed. And so the D Street, we were getting nervous, but I really appreciated them taking the initiative, because it would have really made us nervous if there wasn't something that was, if that was what we could expect, then that would have made us nervous, and we really don't have another tool for that segment of the toolbox, and so we're really hopeful that that would help us fill that segment. I mean, for example, we've got an estimate to just do a grind and inlay on 3rd Street here, which isn't a complete rebuild. It's just taking off roughly 2 inches and putting 2 inches back. to try and nurse this street through. And the total project estimate is about $175,000 to do that. Of that $175,000, $35,000 roughly is just in putting in the ramps along that stretch. And so when we do the surface treatments, that's the really difficult part, is we see a huge percentage that comes along. There's a threshold that we hit that requires that ramp installation. And so if we can do these surface treatments like the asphalt rubber chip, it makes more of those projects attainable, because we're not having to add that 30 to 40% at times on a project in order to address the ramps with that project. And so that's, yeah, we're hopeful it'll work, and in the areas where it appears to have been applied correctly, it seems to be functioning in a way that we would hope. And so we'll work toward a solution on D Street and then see where we go from there.
Tyler, the whole team's done a good job on it this year,
Thanks, Mayor.
even though it's been a rough year. Question, Walter?
Well, yeah, I'll echo the mayor. Great job on this. I think the message for the public is that you're doing your best fighting the weather that you've got. I don't know whether y'all caused this by presenting tonight, but y'all have seen it, the severe weather alert for tomorrow from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you very much. But the city and the people need to know that we are aware of the streets. We understand. We're doing our best with what we can. The city would appreciate phone calls if it's a particular bad pothole. We want to know about it so they can get some mix in it before it takes your tire off. We don't want to damage cars. They're very responsive to calls to get particular problems that are really nasty. The fact that 3rd Street or Mountain View south of 6th is bad, they know that. But if it's a particular car buster out there, don't hesitate to call it in and give them an opportunity to jump on it.
Absolutely.
You do a great job. And Steve, we really appreciate you and your people.
Thank you.
All right.
Phyllis,
Thank
good
you.
job.